This is USCHO Weekend Review. And here is your host, Ed Trefsker.
Welcome to USCHO Weekend Review from Monday, November 10th, 2025. This podcast is sponsored by the NCAA Men's Frozen Four, April 9th and 11th in Las Vegas. Visit ncaa.com/mfrozen4 for your tickets. I'm Ed Trefsker alongside Jim Connolly and Derek Schooley. Great weekend of hockey and some sweeps for a change instead of a lot of splits. But let's look at number one, Michigan State. And we don't have the poll out yet while we're recording, but I'm going to guess that they're going to be close to, if not completely, unanimous number one. They defeated Penn State 2-1 in overtime and then smacked them 5-0. Trey Augustine gave up just a single goal for the Spartans. They've won 7 straight, tied for first in Division I right now since they lost to UNH on opening night.
This is a statement weekend, in my opinion, for Michigan State. It's a tough game on Friday night that they had to survive and get the win in overtime. And, credit to being able to pull out that game at home, but then to bounce back and shut out a really good offense in Penn State and limit the offense, really. They did not get the usual ridiculous number of shots that a Penn State team does. So I feel like Michigan State just went out and told everybody, hey, we're a good team. We're a really good team. And, we're playing a very good team. And we I don't want to say crush them because of the overtime game on Friday, but they
what
handled
a great
them.
Atmosphere with every time Gavin McKenna touched the puck, they booed. Every time he left the ice, they cheered. Obviously, a little animosity that he picked Penn State over Michigan State, and that just shows the excitement of college hockey and really neat atmosphere. I tuned in to see a little bit of it around our games, and that it just shows you the hype of college hockey hasn't died down to have that kind of game and to have Michigan State on top. They're definitely going to be the number one team in the land this week.
And maybe a harbinger of things to come in college hockey as those big stars spend a year or two with some college teams. I'm certain that's going to attract a lot of attention.
Well, they just showed that, obviously they're showing Porter Matone over Gavin McKenna. They're showing signs of NIL money. It's just a neat little rivalry. It's something that to bring a lot of attention to the game, and NHL Network covered that. You could see highlights all over the place, and yes, you're right. Something to bring more attention to our game, which is much needed.
And college hockey fans are very well researched these days too. Well, let's go to the NCHC 3 series sweeps. Number 9 Denver on the road at number 4 Western Michigan, winning 3-1 and 6-3. This tells us a little bit about both teams. Denver, we were questioning a little bit a week or two ago, and now Western Michigan, that's got to raise some doubts.
You used my quotes on the other day and the quick hitter on the kind of highlights about questioning Western Michigan, and I got a couple alumni sent that to me via text, questioning our alma mater on their defense, and obviously the 6 goals, and we had some questions about Denver too. And I say, yeah, we always question Denver, and then they wrap off about 8 to 10 to 11 games in a row undefeated, and here we go. Denver goes and wins 2 on the road, and Western gives up 6 again. They're going to have to get right in a hurry. Both these Western's going to have to get right in a hurry, and we'll see if Denver goes on another heater like they normally do this time of year.
I mean, I don't want to make big statements this time of year. I really don't, but I'm going to. Right now, as we look at this, and we're going to talk about Minnesota Duluth, we're going to talk about North Dakota, all sweeping this weekend. Those 3 teams, if one of those teams, or let's just put it this way, if the national champion does not come out of the NCHC this year, I will be shocked. I know we've talked a lot about the Big Ten. We know that Hockey East always has some strong teams. I still look at the NCHC. These teams are going to be so battle tested when they get to the NCAA tournament. They are going to have beat one another up. NCHC team that gets into the NCAA tournament, they're going to have a chance to win a national championship. It's that simple. This conference right now, the hockey that is being played in the NCHC is just so impressive.
You mentioned Minnesota Duluth, sweep over St. Cloud State 4-0 and 3-2 in overtime. Minnesota Duluth was ranked number 7 coming into the weekend. They're going to be number 3 in today's poll. And they weren't even in the poll at the beginning of the season. What a turnaround for Scott Sandelin's squad.
Yeah, we'll get into them a little bit more in the second half today, but this weekend series is just another one. You know, you can do it in non-conference play, but once you bring it back to conference play and you start pulling off 6-point weekends, and this one ends up being a 5-point weekend because you lost a point for the overtime win. But I just look at this Minnesota Duluth team, everything that they've done out of the gate here is so, I mean, it's maybe we should have had higher expectations for them, but the last 2 seasons didn't give us that reason. I love what they're doing here.
You don't want to make major statements, Jimmy, but you did. I'm going to say this is the biggest story of the year so far, Minnesota Duluth. I'm going to make a major statement since we're in a major statement. Who saw this coming? Nobody did. 10-2 at this point. Nebraska, Omaha coming home, but then they've got 4 tough road games going to Colorado College and Western Michigan, basically to end their. Then they got Arizona State to end their first half of the year. We'll see really where they are the next 8 games after that.
But if this team got to the break with 15 wins, would you be surprised?
Yes. Would I mean, right now, would I be surprised? No.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of the year, absolutely. Absolutely, you'd be surprised. I mean, people in Duluth were they not calling for Scott Sandelin's head? They shouldn't have been. No way should they ever be calling for Scott Sandelin's head. But people were, which is crazy to even think of that with what Scotty's done at Duluth. But they were, and now it's like, yeah, look what a good. He's not only a great person, but he's a great coach. And now, would you be surprised at 15 wins? Not even, maybe.
You know, a couple of coaches have also talked to me about him being one of the smartest coaches too.
I would believe that. You know, I just listened to him, you know, in some of his philosophies. You know, he said something a number of years ago. This is going back way before the portal came around. And he was just talking about players that leave programs early. And he said, there's only 2 reasons to really leave a program early. One is because you're ready for the next level. And he's like, in those players, you just got to let go. And the other one is because you hate the coach. You know, and I think he was trying to make the point. They didn't have a lot of players transferring and they were winning national championships. And I just think he wasn't trying to pump himself up as much as saying, with all the movement that's out there, sometimes coaches just don't get along with their players. I think that, you know, when you go into, you know, what makes Scott Sandelin a great coach, I think it's because he can relate to his players really well.
Funny guy. We had him. We were at Mike Schaefer and I were on the rules or the championships committee in Buffalo, and you'd never like teams crossing each other, but they were the number 1 seed. They had the Sabres locker room, and one of Schaef's and my jobs were to make sure that when the teams cross, we let one team go. And he was always, you guys are the highest paid crossing guards in the history of crossing guards, and most wins in the history of crossing guards. And he's got a great sense of humor, just a great guy. And I'm glad to see him having success right now.
And just a side note before we get to the other sweep on the weekend, I think a story for us to look at, or a topic down the road, maybe in a year or 2 even, is a retrospective on who was helped and who was hurt in going into the transfer portal, because not everybody finds out that the grass is greener. Sometimes it's full of weeds and they get lost in them. Well, let's look at number 8, North Dakota, coming into the weekend. They swept at Omaha 7-2 and 4-1. And I think one of the big stories with North Dakota is, other than an exception up in at Clarkson in New York State's North Country, is they've really been putting together some offense.
I mean, when you're scoring 11 goals in NCHC play in a weekend, that's pretty good. And giving up only 3, I think it's the the goal differential right now for North Dakota, they look as strong as you could imagine. It's why I just feel really bold on the NCHC this weekend, because I look at some of the teams that are on the back end of these sweeps: Western Michigan, St. Cloud State, Omaha. I look at all three of those teams and think they're really good. So now you've got three teams that in Denver, Duluth, and North Dakota that pull off those sweeps. I guess it's made me a little bit bullish on this NCHC conference right now.
We're really surprised about that North Dakota. I mean, North Dakota had a little down year last year, doesn't make the tournament. I mean, and now they're back up there. I mean, yeah, whether you thought we should add a coaching change there or not, with Brad leaving and Dane coming in, you knew that they weren't going to be down for that long. And here they are, basically getting back to the top of the NCHC. And like you said, this league is tough. This is a gauntlet. You're running a gauntlet. And I heard it the other day, and we're talking about a Division III league in our office, about a Division III league, and we're talking about some teams in Division III hockey. We're like, this is basically the NCHC at Division III, and that's the best Division III league. And I mean, this is a challenging league. Every night, there's no off nights in this league. The SEC of college hockey, and you got the Big Ten. The Big Ten's the Big Ten, and here you got. This is it.
Well, let's take a look at Hockey East. A couple of teams made their way back to 500 with weekend sweeps and kind of righted the ship after raising some eyebrows earlier on. Number 12, BU over Merrimack, 3-2 in overtime at home and 5-4 on the road. And then BC sweep over Vermont, 2-1 and 5-0. How important was it for these two programs to get these sweeps this weekend, Jim?
Critical. I wasn't all that concerned in the long term about either of these teams. They both are good. We know that there's talent there. I think BC may have taken a small step back in terms of talent from last year, but that just shows how strong of a team they were. BU has the talent. They're just not playing defense right now. So they get the 2 wins against Merrimack, but I'm still a little concerned. They had leads, a 3-0 lead, and then a 5-2 lead against Merrimack, and it ends up being a 5-4 game. They got the overtime win on Friday. That's a good win. You needed to get that at home. But right now, I'm still a little bit concerned for BU. BC, they go up and they do what they had to do in Vermont. It's a good Vermont team. They squeak out a win on Friday night. Saturday, it becomes a little bit more handy. Maybe a bit feels like an easier win. I guarantee it wasn't. But these two teams, they'll be okay. I'm waiting for either of these teams to show me that they're going to be great. BU probably has the roster to be great. BC, maybe. They've got some injuries right now. We'll talk about that on Wednesday. But I think that right now, either of these teams are playing good enough hockey, but they've got to just find that consistency.
Let's get back to 500. We talked on our Wednesday about these teams being at the bottom of their overall records, and they're both back to 500 now. And BU tied for first, but obviously Northeastern has games at hand. Maine right behind them. Boston. It's so tight as far as the points go, but they got what they needed to get, and that's points. And they got trying to get right. And this is the time where you need to stick around in the race. You can really put yourself behind the 8 ball by losing a lot of points at this time of year. You need to stick around and make sure you get right and get on a streak. And they're sticking around and getting right, which is what you need to do at this time of year.
Northeastern had a couple of non-conference games against Stonehill, 2-0 and 4-2. A Stonehill team that is probably overlooked and underrated by people. David Berard just put together a competitive team there. But the Huskies now 7-1 and 0.
Lawton Zacher. That's all we can talk about. Lawton Zacher. He has been fantastic. The transfer goaltender from Brown. He's changed this Northeastern team. They're playing more confident. They have some really good players from the USHL. I look at that as a good pipeline of offense for this team. But on the other side, Lawton Zacher. I mean, he got shutouts against Denver, against Boston College, against Stonehill. 3 out of 4 games he ended up with shutouts, and then gave up 2 on Saturday night in a 4-2 win. I mean, this is a good Northeastern team. They're going to be more tested now as they get deeper into league play. I still think that this might be, I love the stories that we told from the NCHC. Certainly there's good stories there. But I think that this is one of those feel-good stories of college hockey this year. Northeastern coming back after what was a tough season.
I was
for them a
texting
year
with
ago.
Wayne Wilson yesterday, and because it was his birthday, and obviously we played LIU, and we were talking about how the independents have become very, very good. And Stonehill's a great representation. They've only won 1 game. But I think if you go by expected goals, I was reading that there's somewhere where they could be like expected goals. They could be like 5-5 or 6-4, something crazy like that. But they're really only like 1-9 or 1-10. But they could be really close to 500. And for this Northeastern team to sweep them right now, those are big wins. And it comes down to goaltending. I think Frank Serratori said it, and I'm quoting all of my old coaches and friends right now. Sometimes hockey, they don't call it. They shouldn't call it hockey. They should call it goalie. They call it the game goalie, and that's what Zachar's doing right now. They're calling the game goalie.
And I think you can correlate that almost completely. Teams that have goalies doing very well are also the teams that are doing well in this early season. And there's a lot of goalies. The top 10 is like around 940 and above save percentage right now in D1. That's crazy.
I'm finding and is not many people are using a 1-2 rotation anymore. I think a lot of teams are just using one. They're going with one, and they're sticking with one, and they're playing with one. And I think that comes down to when you're not playing, you're playing 34 games, and the schedule's starting to get a little bit more divided up right now. Sometimes you're playing, there's not as many weekday games, and the schedules are divided. And right now there's so much time off that 2 games on a weekend, it's not that hard. So a lot of guys are playing one goalie. You see it with Michigan, they're playing one goalie. You see it with Northeastern, they're playing one goalie. A lot of these teams, Notre Dame's playing one goalie. They're not going back to, Long Island played us. We're playing one goalie. Long Island's played one goalie. RIT's playing one goalie. Everybody's playing one goalie right now. And they're coming from the days of junior hockey where they're playing 50, 60 games. 34 is nothing nowadays. One goalie.
And maybe you get some of the experimental situations where if you look at a team that's played 11 games, maybe it's 9 for their starter and then 2 for a backup. I think it's coaches just trying to say, hey, what do we have? But I agree with you, Schools. I've seen a lot more situations where the goaltender that's going to be coming out every night.
Well, with that, we're going to take a break. We'll come back and talk about a couple of teams specifically and look at a milestone. This is USCHO Weekend Review, sponsored by the NCAA Men's Division I Frozen Four, April 9th and 11th in Las Vegas.
I'm Cole Caulfield, and I played college hockey.
I'm Adam Fox, and I played college hockey.
I'm Jake Gensel, and I played college hockey.
I'm Cale McCarr, and I played college hockey.
Whether you're a fan or a player, nothing compares to college hockey.
We're back with USCHO Weekend Review. Let's take another more in-depth look at Minnesota Duluth. Last year, just 13 wins on the season, 10-2-0 right now. And as we said, 15 wins at the break is not out of the realm of possibility. The line of Max Plant, Zam Plant, and Jason Shagabe might be the most dominant line in college hockey. 22 goals and 36 assists, 58 points in the first 12 games. They've got half the goals scored this season for the team. And goaltender Adam Gajan is 10-2-0, 1.70 goals against and 925 save percentage. much better than last year, 7-12-1, 3.33 goals against an 885 save percentage.
I mean, you rattled off the numbers right there. That almost define what this team is. Great goaltending, and they have an absolutely dominant line. They have the best line in the country right now. Everything we've talked about, Boston College and some of their lines that they had over the last 2 years, this line of Plan, Sugar Bay is dominant. And as long as they stay healthy, they're going to accumulate a lot of points and a lot of goals for this Minnesota Duluth team. Do they need more? Of course, you have to have some depth. You want to have good second and third line scoring. You want to get some contributions from your defense. But when you have this single line that's already put up 22 goals this season, they're dominant. And now the way that Guyon is playing in net, to see him actually throwing the numbers up that support how good he can be, I think now, if you're a Duluth fan, you know that you have all the components. Staying healthy, staying consistent is what's really going to drive this team.
What really strikes me is they're plus 60 overall as a team. Plus 60. And plus minus. I mean, so you're looking at guys that are plus 16. Plants plus 16. You've got those are up. You're talking in 12 games plus 16. You got Ty Hansen, defenseman, plus 13. And plus minus is an old stat, but it's still a stat that people look at and they go, wow, that's a lot of goals to be generating. When you got 22 points in 12 games and you're plus 16, you're not giving up a lot. So they got 44 goals in 12 games. The opposition 22. They're plus 22 in goals right now. That's a lot of goals. And I mean, that's a big time discrepancy. 13 power play goals to 5. They're doing it in a lot of different ways right now.
It tells me you were talking before about fans getting restless there until 2 seasons is not enough time to get restless. Sometimes it takes a couple of years to get in place the team that you want, and maybe to overcome injuries and things like that. So, yeah.
No doubt there, Ed. And too many times, I won't get into specific teams, but too many times fans have called for a coach's head, maybe get the athletic department to go along with it. And then they see that the grass isn't greener. It's almost like we were talking about with the portal earlier. Sometimes you leave your school and it's not a better situation where you go. Sometimes you get a new coach and it doesn't. Anybody that was calling for Scott Sandelin's head was not a sensible fan. It's that simple.
I mean, we heard people in North Dakota, hey, we haven't won a national championship in 4 years. It's time for a change. That's high expectations and also some impatience. Dartmouth, they're off to a 4-0 start. They had 2 league games this weekend, 4-1 over Colgate on Friday, 2-1 over Cornell on Saturday. Last weekend, a sweep of Stonehill before that. But they have the top goals against average and third best goals per game scoring average, 1.25 and 4.25 respectively. Obviously a very small sample size, but it kind of means we should keep an eye on the Big Green.
We've been waiting for this, right? Reed Cashman gets the job during COVID, kind of becomes this coach in waiting as he's waiting for his team to actually play hockey. Finally gets back on the ice, and then you have, kind of rebuilding your program after you didn't play for a year. Now they're back. It wasn't maybe as quick as you thought, but I think this is the Dartmouth rebuild that we thought was going to be possible. Maybe got slowed down by COVID. I'm not surprised because we know how good of a coach Reed Cashman was when he was on Rand Pecknold's staff. He expects to win. I think that this is what we're going to see from this Dartmouth team. They're a dangerous team. They'll get the support up in Hanover. In this ECAC league, could they make a run, win the league championship? I think so.
I'm going to go out on a limb since we're going big here. They could be maybe 1 or 2 lost teams at Christmas. There's not many losses on their schedule here, but I'm looking here maybe through the rest of the first half. Big test at the Ledger Bank Classic. They got Arizona State, it looks like, for 2 in there, but they've got Army, New Hampshire, which could be hard, Yale, Brown, Merrimack. I mean, they could do some pretty good damage here right down the stretch, and they could make a run at the top 4 for sure. in the ECAC, for sure. This is a team that has been flirting with the upper echelon of this league, and it would not surprise me to be right there as we go down the stretch. Reed has done a really good job. Reed's a good coach, good guy, and he could be right there at the end.
By the way, you mentioned Yale. Props to them with their first win over Quinnipiac since 2018 on Friday night. But some congratulations to former Boston University coach Jack Parker. He was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame on Saturday. Coach at BU for 40 seasons, national titles in 1978, 95, and 2009. 897 wins, second all-time behind Jerry York.
One of the legends. And it's so good to see him go into the Hall of Fame. Jerry York a few years ago, they were kind of a 1-2 punch, especially once Jerry came back to Hockey East and had 20 plus seasons at BC. I loved that rivalry. I didn't get to know Jack that well in terms of Hockey East coaches, but everything he did was so respectable. I think that was the number one thing that you had to talk about, was just you had a level of respect for Jack. So congratulations, Coach Parker. Great to see him in the Hall of Fame. Hockey's Hall of Fame is getting a lot more college influence as the years go by.
Better. Very classy man. Met him when we played Anchorage, or played them up in Anchorage in the Nissan Jeep Classic back in about 2007. Very good man. Very great for college hockey, and congratulations.
And by the way, a milestone for Derek. You coached your 700th game behind the Robert Morris bench on Saturday night.
Yeah,
Saturday night? Oh, see, the league got it wrong then.
Saturday night, but hopefully we can I'll do 701 with you on Friday.
Yeah, I'll look forward to that, our annual, it seems, trip to Moon Township, to Clearview Ice Arena. Looking forward to seeing Derek in a couple of games between RIT and the Colonials.
Thank you, though. Appreciate it.
That's always fun.
I owe a lot to our alums and coaches and everybody out there who helped me get there.
Yep. And you'd probably be more like, you'd be creeping up on 800 right now if somebody hadn't made a wrong decision along the way. But in any case, that's going to do it for this edition of Weekend Review. First of all, we're on YouTube now, so go to youtube.com/USCHO, subscribe there, give it a like, both help us out. And we've been sponsored by the NCAA Men's Division I Frozen Four, April 9th and 11th in Las Vegas. Go to ncaa.com/mfrozen4 to get your tickets. For Jim Connolly, for Derek Schooley, I'm Ed Trefsker, and this has been USCHO Weekend Review.